All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the White Noise Podcast. So Marvel, Disney, Star Wars, whatever you want to call it, basically Disney Plus has just destroyed every other streaming service on the planet with their latest investor meeting panel thing, whatever you want to call it. They did this like giant like metric fuck ton release of content and titles that they're gonna have. So I mean, it's kind of boring to just go through a list, but I do want to cover a little bit of it because it is crazy. And I do think, kind of like we were talking about last week, it is kind of industry changing. Like, you know, HBO were like, oh, they're doing all these big movies, and then Disney just came out with, what, 20 shows maybe? I'm not even exaggerating, right? 15, 20 shows.
Yeah.
That are going straight to streaming service on Disney Plus. So, dude, the industry is never going to be the same after this. But anyway, let's get into it. So, I apologize if I miss one of these things because there's just so much shit. I tried looking it up and there's just no simple way to see all this kind of stuff. But to start with Star Wars, they announced a bunch of new Star Wars shows. I don't know if you saw any of those. Are you even interested in any of those, Kelvin?
Yeah. Cassian Andor I'm interested in.
Really?
Just because I love...
I think that one looks so boring. I'm sorry, but it looks so boring.
No, you're fine. I just... Not for himself, just for Diego Luna, but I think that the... Again, the opportunity there's so big, I just hope I don't Mandalorian it, yeah, I said it, and kind of go small scale when they could go so big. This is their chance to, like, go big and be like, all right, let's actually explore the world instead of just, like, hampering it with one tiny green child. But, yeah, I feel like that and Kenobi is the other show that I'm really looking forward to.
So the Cassian Andor series, I don't mind Diego Luna, right? I think he's a good actor. I liked his character. He was fine in Rogue One. But there was no world where I was watching Rogue One being like, you know what? That guy on the side that's like a little bit charismatic and kind of good. Can we have just a series about him? Like,
yeah.
No, I'm sorry. That's like, no. He was fine. I don't want a series about him.
Yeah.
But they announced a bunch of stuff. I think by far of all the stuff that Star Wars announced, I am the most excited about the Bad Batch. Now it may be biased because the trailer for the Bad Batch was also probably the best made trailer out of all of these things. Like, it just cut to the shit. It was just straight action. The animation quality is incredible. It looks super cool. I like the idea of exploring a world that maybe like seeing what happened right after Order 66, kind of like we saw a tiny peek of in the Clone War finale season. I think they're cool, and it just seems like cool action. And it, like, we did a trailer reaction video on it, and you were talking about this, and I totally agree with you. It seems like maybe even a little bit of an opportunity to lean, you know, in the spectrum of Clone Wars, to lean more mature as opposed to less mature in the cartoon realm. So that, I think, excites me the most. That, and like you said, Obi-Wan. Mostly, though, because Obi-Wan is going to be a miniseries, and I think that's the way to do it, because, you know, the most frustrating thing to me about The Mandalorian, and I know some people will disagree, and maybe it's just my cynical movie brain, but when I watch The Mandalorian, I can't help but see them setting up the next season and the next storyline and the next thing and the next merch and it's like, dude, just fucking tell a story. Like, quit setting up all the bullshit or buying time to get to, like, just tell a story. You know, and so... Like, I know that's harsh, and it's not like, you know, I still watch the show. It's still semi-entertaining, but it's like when you just have it as a miniseries, that kind of makes me feel like they're not trying some corporate thing. They're not trying to explore the cinematic universe. It's like somebody came to Disney and was like, we have a story to tell, and we want Ewan McGregor, and we want to tell it. And I think, so like, those two, I think, by far are the most promising.
Yeah, definitely. They can have a lot of pull, and hopefully they both can deliver when they come out.
I mean, the other stuff, I don't know. I'm not a huge Patty Jenkins fan, so her Rogue Squadron thing, I mean, they didn't show us anything, so I have no idea. I don't know what Rogue Squadron is. So, she's okay with Wonder Woman. She's not bad. She's not great. She's just kind of like a middle of the road director. I don't have anything bad or especially good to say about her. What else was there? Help me out here. Oh, there's Acolyte. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested in that, but then I've been seeing like promotional stuff about it. And so I don't know what to think now. Acolyte supposedly is like a show that's going to take place in like the Old Republic, right around the rise of the Sith. So I don't know. That could be possibly good, but I have no idea who's doing it. Like they've been name dropping, and I don't recognize her name. So there's not a lot of trust there. I don't know about that. What else is there? Am I missing anything? Oh, the Ahsoka show.
Yeah.
I don't know, cause I liked her. It's almost like some of this stuff is like they're doing so much stuff that like us as fans are like, well, we didn't even ask for this. Like, I'm not against an Ahsoka show, but like, I don't know if we needed an Ahsoka show. Like,
Yeah.
So it's a little bit like that for me, where it's like I'm not against it. I just okay, I guess we're getting an Ahsoka show.
Yeah. Hopefully Rosario could be great. I mean, we've seen her in the episode of The Mandalorian, but they planned the show before they put her in that, and then all of a sudden it just leads into the other. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it yet, but again, hopefully, like with casting Andor, they can really work these shows to build off of that and really expand their part of the universe.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, like I said, I'm not opposed or against Ahsoka. I liked Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. I don't care that her Liku were too short. Like, really, guys? Like, Star Wars fans get caught up on like the stupidest of things, and then they will forgive the like most blatantly obvious things on the planet. I can't believe it. Like, they'll be like, "Oh, but the Liku,"
Oh, yeah.
and then they just like yada yada some other thing about the Force, and they're like, "No, that's okay." You're like,
Yeah,
what?
Palpatine's back. Yeah, he's great. He's back,
Yeah, like,
guys.
nobody
We
had a
believe
problem
it.
with
Oh,
that.
yeah. Oh, 3 seconds. Okay, great. Yeah, he's back.
I know.
No.
I know so
Yeah.
many people were like, no, it's
Totally
totally fine.
excited.
That wasn't my problem with
Yeah.
Rise of Skywalker. And then they're like, the Liku were 3 inches too short. It's like, dude, are you kidding me? You just raised Palpatine from the dead in the biggest like BS storyline I've ever seen in my life. So, dude, bottom line is, like, I like Star Wars. I really do. I love the playground that George Lucas invented. But I'm not a Star Wars fan. I'm a movie fan. And that's the bottom line. And, like, people will be like, oh, my gosh, but it's like, I'm not. I'm a movie fan. So I like some Star Wars because they're good movies. But, I will never care that the Liku aren't long or short enough. I don't care.
Exactly. It's
But I do want to talk a little bit about The Mandalorian before we go on to other like Marvel announcements and stuff like that. So the latest episode of The Mandalorian came out. My man Bill Burr. I am so happy for that man. This was we're talking spoilers, by the way. So number 1, Bill Burr was freaking awesome. Number 2, Boba Fett's suit is fucking awesome. Number 3, Slave 1 and the 30 seconds that I saw Slave 1 in is fucking awesome. Those are my thoughts on this latest episode.
awesome.
No, what did you think about it?
Yeah, I love that it was it's we had a plot, but it was its own contained story from beginning to end, and I liked how I thought this would bother me, honestly, that every 30 seconds Bill Burr cracked a joke, but he's a comedian, it's what he does. And so it felt like he really wasn't hampered by his ability to just tell jokes. So from the beginning on, at first I was like, oh god, is he going to be annoying? But no, actually I really liked it, him a lot more this time around, because he was really given free rein to kind of do what he wanted. And my favorite joke is when he first gets there, he's like, oh, you remind me of this other guy I knew. And then their whole camaraderie and their whole back and forth to me really worked, progressing their story.
That was hilarious.
Going to the prison and kind of seeing the village, and I love the whole blurred lines aspect. I think they did this better than in Rogue One. They did a little bit, but they expanded upon it here. How these places are taken over by the Empire, New Republic, and they're just kind of I don't know what to compare it to, but they're just taken over and assaulted by this organization. And it ruins their whole entire livelihood, and they kind of got into that with the pirates and different parts of the empire that were lording over this village, but they did it in a different way this time, and I appreciated that. Versus like with Bryce Dallas Howard, it's like, oh, we have to fight against it. They just did their own solo mission here, which I loved, and they had that whole scene where they had to get the codes, and Bill Burr's like, I know these guys, I work with them, so then they go in together. That was awesome. They really had to work together, and that's kind of the cool part I liked about it, was it really forced the two of them together instead of just being like, oh, I'm gonna do my own thing. And they had that great conversation about the battle that Bill Burr was talking about, and the officer just kind of like digging his heels in. He knows he's goading Bill Burr into this conversation, and he knows it's pissing him off, but he doesn't care, and he's just talking about the history and how much it hurt his people, and then he's like, fuck it, and he just kills him. And
That was such a cool moment.
Such
like,
a great
that
scene.
was such a cool moment.
Yeah, and then everything, the escape and the whole. I loved how it was all. It's kind of like reminded me of a heist film. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a surprisingly mature moment for The Mandalorian, and I will give them credit for that. I still, I feel like I'm going crazy. I still don't see why The Mandalorian couldn't spend an extra 15 minutes per episode. Like, I'm not asking for an extra 15 minutes of, like, explosions and action. I'm asking for, like, 15 more minutes of just, like, talking and, like, a little bit of development before we, like, fly into the plot. I just don't see how that's not possible. It seems
Yeah,
a little crazy to me. So I got like any of these, I still kind of got that feeling a little bit where it's like, okay, and then we're done, and then we're gonna let Bill Burr go, and now he's gone. And I was like, okay, all right. But I did enjoy the arc. I thought it was an interesting arc. It was super cool seeing the Empire juggernauts that you see little bits of them in Revenge of the Sith. That was just dope. The thing with the pirates was pretty cool. I liked the idea of. I think my favorite part of the episode was when they're driving up to the camp and Bill Burr just starts calling out the Mando on all of his stuff, where he's like, everybody has a belief system. You have a belief system, and then all of a sudden you take your helmet off and you bend that belief system because you have to. And it's like that whole conversation that they had,
yeah,
I thought was super interesting, and I thought that was a super cool way to. I don't know. I thought that was really interesting. Like, it was a cool way to develop the Mandalorian through Bill Burr's character, by kind of like calling him out on some of his stuff. I heard a lot of people talk about this episode being like, "Oh my gosh, you want character development? There was so much character development. The Mandalorian took off his helmet," and I was like, "Yeah, he took off his helmet, but like, are you literally telling me he would have been like, no, I'm not taking off my helmet. I'm gonna fuck this entire mission over because my stupid helmet rule." It's like, dude, you moron. If he had done that, I mean, it was a fine moment. I just don't know if it was like this glorious character moment for the Mandalorian.
yeah.
Like, I
Especially
was like,
since
oh, he showed himself to be not completely incompetent as far as strategy. Yes. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, and they had been
Um,
leading. They've been leading up to that moment all season with Katie Sackhoff, and literally everyone he's talked to the entire season has been like, "This is the way, but is it really?" And that's sort of what they've been hinting at the whole entire season. Yeah, he takes his helmet off for sure, but I mean, it's not. It's more the
yeah.
principle of the whole different sides of Mandalorians that hopefully we're gonna get to. I'm still hoping we can explore old versus new because I'm still so invested in this part of the show. Hopefully we can get there eventually.
Well, I mean, do you know anything? Cause see, that it's like weird, but I actually know a lot about that because of the fan film we did. So it's like it's not even old versus new. It's like there's like different clans, and it's actually cool because it. I feel like they took a lot of notes from, like I said earlier on a few episodes back, from like real world religions, where it's like the history of Mandalore or whatever. Like, oh, these different groups broke off and went to this planet, and then from that group there was another extremist group from here, and I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds like every religion ever, like
Yeah.
this is crazy. But yeah, I agree. I would be interested in seeing a little bit more. I thought it was a cool episode. I mean, I didn't really care about the Boba Fett paint thing. I mean, it was cool. I was like, all right, cool. He kind of like touched up his suit a little bit. I mean, it kind of makes me question like why he didn't do that in the original movies. But like, what was he like? Hey guys, we gotta stop. I need to paint my suit. Now
Yeah.
we'll go save this guy from prison.
Pretty much.
All right. I mean, like, I'm fine with it. It was just like, okay. All right, whatever. Um, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Is next week's episode the last episode?
Episode 8, yeah, next week's season finale.
Yeah. So we'll see. I actually thought they were gonna stay with Bill Burr and use him in the finale. And they aren't, which makes me think that they're probably gonna run into Bo-Katan and her group of people at some point on this mission.
Probably.
But we'll see. I don't know how it's gonna go. It was a little bit, that ending there where he like literally repeated the line. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
did you watch The Mandalorian season 1 to remember what he said? I was like, okay. Like, how did you know? I didn't remember he said that. Like, and like, I get it. It was like a
Yeah,
screenplay moment, but I was like, wow, he like really remembered like exactly what you said, Moff
exactly
Gideon.
what he said.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Like, it wasn't even a one-liner. That was like a little monologue you remembered. Gee. So, I mean, the Mandalorian supplies us with some lovely cheesy moments. There's just stuff like that where I'm like, this is a little bit ridiculous, but whatever. We'll see. I want to see where it ends up. Because the Mandalorian is so wacky with pacing, like how they pace their seasons. Like normally I'd be able to be like, oh, Moff Gideon's gonna die or Moff Gideon's gonna live or whatever. But like because the Mandalorian will just like do 6 episodes of filler and then randomly accelerate the plot like they did last episode, like times 20. I actually have no idea what's gonna happen in the finale. So I don't know if
I
it's a
don't
good
know.
thing or a bad thing, but it's like they may like normally I'd be like, no way Moff Gideon's dying this season. He's going to the next season, but I also wouldn't be surprised, like looking at previous Mandalorian episodes, if they like went in and killed him like immediately, and that's how they end the season, like kind of out of nowhere. So we'll see. I have no idea what's gonna happen next episode, and I'm a little bit excited. I want to see more of Boba Fett in action. Him and his ship destroying those TIE fighters was just like the coolest thing ever. That just made that made the whole episode. I was like, oh, that was an okay episode. Then that happened. I was like, oh, that was great. I just watched that on a loop.
Yeah, that was awesome. And at least
So
I would rather, yeah, I'd rather you take out Moff Gideon and keep Boba Fett. We got him back. Let's keep him around for a bit.
I'm fine with that. I really want to see a Boba Fett miniseries. And not a full series. I don't want a full TV show. It's the same thing with the Obi-Wan. I just want you to do like a 4-episode miniseries and just leave it. Don't fuck with him after that. I would be down to see that though. Like I want to see a little Boba Fett, but don't like make a stupid series. Don't like do the whole thing. Okay, you already have your rip-off Boba Fett Mandalorian character. Leave that be, and just have like 2 or 3 episode, a little mini season thing. I think that would be super cool.
Yeah, definitely.
But we'll see. So that happened. Let us know what you guys thought about that. I'm interested to see what you guys think is going to happen next week on The Mandalorian, or even what you guys thought about this episode. But then back to Marvel news. More stuff for Disney Plus. Is it just me? I'm really not excited for this next phase of Marvel.
No, you're not alone. To be truthful, I'm not completely on board yet.
Okay. Because at first I know me, like I'm a little harsher than you are for movies, but I was like, am I the only one that's like kind of just tired of the superhero movie thing? Like, we got 10 years. I'm good now.
Yeah, but they gotta keep it going. I mean, like it or not, they've established this first
I
phase or
know.
first iteration through Endgame, so they have to somehow keep it going for profit and storytelling, of course. But I don't know. Honestly, I'm not too jazzed about it yet. Now, my opinion could change once we start getting new shows and more looks at films and stuff. But for
But
now,
like even the shows we saw
I'm not
Falcon and
sure.
Winter Soldier, we saw Loki, we saw
WandaVision.
WandaVision, and we saw the What If, and like they don't look terrible, especially like WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier. They look fine. I just find myself like not being interested at all. Like I'm just like, okay, like another superhero thing. All right. And same with the Spider-Man 3. Like
Yeah,
there's huge
they
Spider-Man
look
3
okay.
announcements like, "Oh, they're doing a crossover thing with Alfred Molina's Doc Ock and Tobey Maguire is confirmed for the cast or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, cool. I like those Spider-Man movies, but like another Spider-Man." like how much can you really change it up? I don't know.
I know.
I don't know. I think that Marvel has a way of making these movies and it works and it's great. But as a consumer, at least from my point of view, maybe not, other people, but from my point of view, it's like, it's good, even if it's done, especially when it's done well, like the Rousseau brothers. But after a while, it gets tiring. Whereas, at least with DC, they're swinging real hard and they're missing a lot. But because they're swinging really hard, there are projects that are so out there and that are not this like cookie cutter format of a show or a movie that I'm in, like Batman. I'm like, oh, this is like a David Fincher film that also has Batman in it. Super interesting. Joker, you know what I mean? This is like a thriller movie that also has a superhero in it because they're just trying to. And then there's stuff like Birds of Prey, which I was like, wow, that just looks terrible. I don't want to watch that. But that's fine. And I think if you want to keep the superhero genre alive, that's the way to do it because it's like Marvel, you can put a different superhero name on it, but I know exactly what's going to happen in all these movies. I'm not surprised by anything you're doing now. It's like, oh, you brought in old Spider-Man actors. It's like, that's fine, but it's still going to be like a superhero movie. Like cookie cutter, villain, blah, blah, blah. Good things happens in the end. Some quippy jokes. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're Spider-Man? I'm Spider-Man. Isn't that so cool? We're both Spider-Man? And it's like, okay, right? Like Mary Jane and like three people turn around. Oh, that's funny. Like, it's like, I know what, we know what we're going to get. I don't know. I just can't help but be like a little bit exhausted. I sound really grumpy on this podcast, don't I?
No, you're fine.
Gosh, I promise I'm in a good mood. I'm not like secretly depressed. No one in my family died.
I don't, yeah, but I don't blame you. At the same time, I understand that there are ways that the entertainment industry is going to have to keep constantly reinventing this genre because it's way bigger than it started out to be. And Marvel did their thing, they had Endgame and everything, but now they're really going to have to transition to kind of keep us interested instead of it being the same. And maybe this is the phase that they transition to that. And then after all this, what we've announced yesterday, we can really get to the changes, whatever that may be. Because, and these stories have been in the ether way longer than our movies have for them. So it's something that they're going to have to constantly work to keep reinventing for the sake of audiences not getting
and I know this is like a trope that I harp on, and if you're a fan of Disney, that's fine, but I just can't, like, after a panel like that, you can't help but think like, you see Netflix and they're making some interesting original content and having some risky comic specials and stuff like that, and then HBO's like, oh, we're bringing our movies, and then Disney's like, oh, we can blow $1 billion. Let's just blow $1 billion. What do we have that's valuable? Star Wars, Marvel. Come up with 10 different shows for each. I'll give you $1 billion and just put it out. People will eat it up. And like, I know maybe that's just me superimposing my like not over the top love of Disney, but like you can't help but think that after a launch like that. Like, there doesn't seem to be some, amazing creative inspiration. And not that there has to be, but you know what I mean? Like, you want to watch a movie, it's interesting, and it's a good story to tell, not just some, like, commercial label because Star Wars is valuable and Disney wants to have success.
Yeah, to be perfectly honest, and I only say this because I want to work there one day, to me, the Disney animation slate kind of was that, unfortunately, to where it was like, here's all our properties that we have had the last 10 years. We're going to make shows about them. Hope you're excited. And I'm like, all right, great. But, like, where's the originality in that?
Yeah, I don't like that's what I'm saying. Some stuff, like you see the Bad Batch and even WandaVision, it's like, oh, it looks like you might have a story here to tell. But it's just like when there's that many of these things coming out, you're like, really? Did we really? I don't know. I mean, bottom line, I don't care. I'm not going to pretend I have some moral battle with Disney. I don't care. More importantly, I just want to be able to watch the stuff that I like. Like, the only reason I even bring it up is because I'm worried. Like, I prefer Netflix. I'll be upfront about it, of course. I prefer the content Netflix makes. It's more adult-oriented, it's more mature, and I think they take bigger risks on projects. No shade on somebody who watches Disney or even Disney themselves. Like, I might work there one day, and yes, I'll eat all of the words I'm saying right now. But it's like, I just don't want the stuff that I enjoy to be messed with. And it's like, when Disney does that big of a move, it does make you wonder, like, is Netflix going to survive? Mm-hmm. Is Netflix going to get bought out? Because it's like, I don't care if they make a show that I don't care about. Yeah, you're right. Whoop-de-doo. But it's like, I'm going to be pissed if Netflix gets bought out. or there stops being a market for, actual risky content or some interesting and inventive stories to be told.
Yeah.
So it's like it does kind of make you think about that.
Yeah, for sure. And with Warner Brothers especially running the rest this last week, it seems like Disney was. I disagree on the fact that I think they did have it all planned out. They're just waiting for the right moment. And this week, especially after with Warner Brothers pulling their incident, they're like, all right, let's do it. And so they kind of.
Oh, I definitely think that. I didn't say
it.
they didn't have it planned out. They 100% had it planned out. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, I mean, I think there was some clear focuses on introducing a lot of characters in the second season of The Mandalorian. And I think, it would be silly to pretend that Disney wasn't doing that to test out these characters and see whether they could make shows out of them and make other content around, Bo-Katan or, Ahsoka Tano or whatever. I personally want to see a show about the Frog Lady. But I think my dreams won't come true. And I want like a rated R John Wick movie about the Frog Lady and her kids.
Universal pretty much beat you to that this week with Bob Odenkirk.
Dude, I know, right? That movie, what's the movie called again? Okay, so if you guys don't know, Bob Odenkirk, he's the guy from Better Call Saul. He is Saul Goodman in Breaking Bad. I love both of those shows. And he's coming out. What was the name of the movie?
Nobody.
He's coming out in this comedy John Wick rendition thing called Nobody. Dude, it looks so amazing. I love it. I love the guy. Bob Odenkirk is such an underrated actor.
Seriously.
He's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to watch that. So I can't wait. There's that. I'm going to watch Fat Man tomorrow. Because I can't wait, and that movie looks incredible. And on that note, before we get off the podcast, I do want to say, next week we're going to be doing our top 10 Christmas movies of all time. Me and Kelvin, I want to face off the list as a Christmas episode.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
I was going to do like a 12 days of Christmas, and then I realized that would have to start tomorrow, and I was like, oh, well, I'm not prepped for this, so we'll forget that. But we're going to do our top 10 Christmas movies. We're going to do that next week, so stay tuned to check that out. Thank you guys for listening. Tell us what you guys think. Out of all of these content things, it was basically all Disney today. Out of all the stuff that Disney has announced, what are you most excited for? What trailers seem the best? And then, not to be forgotten, what did you guys think of the Mandalorian episode? Do you like Boba Fett's new armor? I'm just a Boba Fett fanboy, so if you say anything bad about Boba Fett in the comments, I will block you. But besides that, tell me your thoughts. And thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.